All right, the second pillar of the DSP, Dominant Sexual Power Program, is compliance. And while compliance is a fairly technical term, what we really mean is help or contribution. She's putting work or effort into your interaction or your relationship together. In general, you want to have a woman working hard to meet up with you, to see you, to be in the relationship with you. What guys try to do typically, the biggest mistake is that they're trying to make it really, really easy for the girl to get together with them. They're trying to make it really enticing. So they'll try to talk about really expensive dinners. They'll offer to drive 2 hours to pick the girl up. And the reason why they do that is because they have this fear that if it's the slightest bit difficult for the woman's not going to get together with them. And so out of that fear, they try to jump through all these hoops. They try to do all these things. They'll drive, they'll pay money in order to make it really easy for her. And she'll read that as him just having low status and very little sexual value, very little sexual, not much of a sexual identity, because he's placing the value on other things outside himself. So there's actually 5 different types of compliance that I have here. We have direct compliance, vision compliance, dirty compliance, virtual compliance, black compliance, and occupational compliance. And we're going to go through all those with examples. All right. Now Brad, did you want to talk a little bit about mindsets or how to think about this for people to understand a little bit more?
I think that once you get to a certain point in terms of your vision and just your overall confidence with women, you get to a place where you just assume that women like you and they want to do things for you, then compliance becomes really easy. But before you get to that point, you kind of need to motivate the women to do things, because you're lacking that X factor of truly congruently expecting her to do it. You're still missing that at first. And the way that you develop that in yourself is to use what's called the us frame. And the us frame basically hits a woman on her biological wiring, her deep primal wiring based on thousands of years of evolution, where a woman's best survival strategy when it comes to men and mating and bearing children is to find a strong man who she can pair bond with, and it's like they're teammates. You know, she provides a certain contribution, she supports him. With the us frame, what you're doing is you're framing your compliance request as if it's going to bring the two of you together. And what you're doing here is you are speaking directly to the 50,000-year-old woman who needs to feel like there's the potential for a pair bond between the two of you. And that's what's really going to motivate her to want to do things for you, because that will bring the two of you together.
That's good.
And I think it's important to think about compliance in the right way, because you want to feel good about a woman helping you out. Some guys feel like they're doing something wrong or that they're being manipulative by having a woman contribute to their life or help them out, when in fact it's not manipulation at all. It's quite a natural process, and it's how women often want to feel about the man in their life. And I've seen guys turn into what I call compliance junkies, where they're so focused on getting a girl to doing something for them, like maybe hold a drink, where when the girl does it, he has a look of satisfaction on his face, like he achieved something or he got something from her or he was able to manipulate her in some way. And I found that when a guy tries to do that, he instantly turns himself off to girls, because girls can tell you are playing a game. So you really want this to be a natural process where you're really allowing a girl to give and to help out because it's her natural way. You're not doing it for some sort of power play.
At the higher levels, it really becomes something like teamwork. And I have a good friend named Alfredo, and he actually had a really, really good date that he would take women on, and that was rock climbing. And by taking a woman rock climbing, where you actually have to help her and she's got to help you, and you're doing something together, that's probably the strongest, most effective form of compliance in terms of getting the woman to bond with you, because you have a goal, you have the goal together, and you need to help each other and rely on each other to reach that goal. And not only that, it's a physical activity, gets your blood pumping, and it really puts her into a state where she's ready to get physical.
You have another really good date that you do that I think is, it's become popular among the trainers, which gets a lot of it gets a lot of mutual support, a lot of compliance with the
cooking together. Yeah, that's true too. What Brian mentions is something I do is I'll have a girl for the very first date. There's two ways I'll do it. Number one, I'll be on the phone talking about something that we can do together, like cooking. Like sometimes I'll do it as a challenge, like, are you a good cook? And then I'll say, we can try together. I can see and we can impress each other. Another thing I'll do is I'll meet her directly at the supermarket, almost as like a surprise. And that sometimes I'll do that if I wasn't able to really mention that she'd be coming over my place on the phone, and I wanted to get her like there. And then once she's at the supermarket, she'll say, "What's the surprise?" I'll say, "We're gonna cook together." And she's so excited by that. Number one, it's very different. No guy's ever done that. Usually, what guys will do is take them out to the most expensive restaurant that they know about. And number two, it's fun and exciting. It's not a boring ass date. It's not like going to the movies where you're sitting there and you can't even learn. You learn about each other. You get to see how each other gets things done and see each other in action. So it works pretty well. So part two is the first type of compliance, which is direct compliance. And this is the most common part of compliance. It involves just telling her to do something simple. And early on in meeting a woman, you can do that by having her hold your drink. You can wave your finger at her, telling her to come over here. I had a friend named Sebastian who did this a lot, very effectively. He would travel a lot, so he'd have his suitcase with him, or he'd have a backpack, and maybe he'd be at a restaurant and he'd set it down and go to order coffee or something. Maybe he was at Starbucks. And if there was an attractive woman there, he'd say, "Hey, can you watch my stuff for me?" And it doesn't take much, and usually people will say yes. He'd go order his drink, come back, and she'd be there, and he can thank her for that. Even though all she did was sit there and maybe she was studying or whatever, technically she was watching his stuff. She had some part of her attention on his stuff for him. And so he was able to, frame that as her doing work for him. He would thank her for it, and then he would start talking to her as if he was interested in her because she was a nice person, because she did that for him. And he was very successful with that.
I think for just direct compliance, it's really important that it's situationally relevant. If there's something going on, there's something in the immediate environment, and you just ask quickly, like, "Hey, can you hold this for me?" Or, "Hey, come here for a second." Or, "Hey, do this." It's like, it's not a big production. You just say it with this tonality as if something needs to be done. You're not trying to get her to do something. This needs to be done. And you just immediately just ask for her help. And a good mindset for this, I think a lot of guys, when they're on a date or they approach a woman and they're in a conversation, they're always thinking about, okay, what do I say next? What do I do next? If you can shift your focus from that to what am I doing? What's going on in the immediate environment? And how can she help or contribute or play a role in it? And that's a much more powerful mindset. If you shift your thinking paradigm from how do I impress her to how can she help me, that's much more attractive. So instead of attracting women by trying to say the right thing or impress them, it's much more attractive actually to get them to do things, get them to help you, get them to play a role, get them to be active in the interaction and active in the things going on around the two of you.
Yep. Another reason why I like compliance and direct compliance very early on in the interaction is it does two things that come to mind immediately. Number one is, in no way does it seem like you're trying to pick her up. Mm-hmm. Because what guy would do that to pick a girl up? Not many. Usually guys try to use compliments, or they'll hit on the girl, or they'll talk about her ass, or something like that. But asking her to watch your stuff, or there's something you did with water at the bar. That was a good one.
Oh, a lot of times, when you go to the bar, it's crowded with people. It's hard to get in, and especially if the bartenders are male, and you're a guy, and it seems like the male bartenders will serve the women faster. What I'll say to a woman who's maybe closer to the bar that I want to talk to, a lot of times guys think, oh, that's impossible. She's waiting to get a drink, or she's facing the bar and I'm not, I'm further away. That's a tough situation. It's actually not. What I'll do is I'll tap the woman on the elbow or something, and I'll say something like, and I'll have a playful energy with it, but I'll say, this guy's not going to serve me since I'm a guy. Would you, just use your feminine charm to grab me a water? And the water's free, so it's not like she has to pay for it. There's really no reason why she shouldn't do it. And what I'm also doing is I'm framing her looks as something that serves me, not something that I'm trying to get. I'm actually using her looks as a way for me to get water. So instantly I have authority, I have dominance. She's not going to refuse because it's free, and I say it in a playful way. It's very different, so she'll want to do it. And then the whole time she stands there and waits for the bartender to wait on her. And then when she gets that water, she waits for that water. And then when she brings it over to me, that's a good 2 to 5 minutes of her of me in her brain within the frame of I'm helping this guy. So that's 5 minutes of compliance right there.
Right. Try to make the early compliance stuff that you're going to do as easy, low cost as possible, free if you can, because you want to get that immediate yes. You want to start out your interaction with the right type of frame where she's doing something for you. No matter how small or easy it is, it's a good thing if you can start off an interaction like that. It's very powerful to have her doing something, no matter how small. And she's always going to be nice to you after that, because in order to be consistent with what she just did with you, there's that principle of commitment and consistency. Because she already did that for you, it would be incongruent of her to reject you later on.
Something I do a lot is get logistical compliance. So fairly quickly I get girls moving with me, even if it's just a few feet. And I've found that early on you want to give a very good reason for the compliance. Brian gave a really good reason with the water. And I will often ask for her opinion on a painting, or get her to come to the bar with me, or to the dance floor, or maybe to meet her friends. So I give a very good quality reason. I find a lot of guys sometimes with compliance can try and request a compliance, but they don't actually let her understand why they're requesting it.
Right.
I think something that guys do a lot is they'll actually get compliance, but in a very cocky way, where the compliance is about the woman's body. I've seen guys approach women and try to make the woman spin for him, but they'll look her up and down as if she's like a piece of meat. Or, guys will just be really cocky. Like they'll try to get the woman to come over just with like the flick of a finger. And this gets laughs from the women. And basically what that guy has done is, he's basically ruled out any opportunity for future compliance, for the woman to even be interested in him. So if your compliance is not relevant and it's not easy for her to do, remember, she doesn't know you. So think of ways that, you can make it easy and relevant. And that's a great way to open and get the interaction started off on the right foot with the right precedence.
Right. Later on, once you do get to know her a little bit, then I'll start to do things like, if I'm in a club situation, come meet my friends, they'll love you. That's a good one. It doesn't get rejected very often. Getting her to go across the bar with you, which you're in the same bar, but if you can compliance builds, right? It's like you want to see it as like a ladder where you get something small, And once she says yes to that, then you get something a little bit bigger. So getting her to come across the bar to meet your friends or to see something cool on the other side of the bar, like in Boston, there's a cool place. I forgot what it's called, but they got like this huge aquarium that's lit up with jellyfish in it. So it's very easy to get a girl to come check it out with you. Once you get something like that and she's okay with it, well, then it opens up the opportunity to say, hey, let's check out this bar across the street. And it's 100 times easier to get her to go across the street with you if you've already gotten her to go across the bar with you than if you were just doing it cold.
That kind of leads to a really interesting psychological principle called cognitive dissonance. And this plays out, a really popular example people can relate to is being pot committed in poker, where if you invest a lot of money in a hand, by putting your chips in, it's very hard to fold. Like, it's mentally harder to fold because you've invested so much. You'd be totally losing all that money if you folded, and so it's hard to let go. And so once you get her complying a little bit, you can get her complying more. And that's why compliance, like you said, it increases. She invests a little bit, it makes her harder to cut her losses and let go. And the more compliance you get, the more, relaxed the standards for your behavior can be. You can really start just doing outlandish stuff because she's so invested. She will mentally try to diminish that cognitive dissonance between your behavior and what she's done, and she will actually rationalize to herself, oh, well, I'm doing this compliance, I'm doing X activity with him because he must be a great guy. There's something about him. So you can actually get her to convince herself that you're attractive just by getting compliance.
And then later on, say I'm on a date or something, that's when I'll start doing the more heavy duty stuff, like the cooking dinner together. One thing that I'll do is if we're driving somewhere, I'll take out a map. This was before GPS. I don't know if this works anymore, but I'd take out a map and have her be like the navigator. And I'll just take the map out and say, hey, you can be the navigator. We're trying to find this. And even if I knew exactly how to get there, I still might do that because it gives her a role in what we're doing together and gets her contributing to it, as opposed to just being a princess sitting there while I drive her around.
I really like the idea of investing, and a girl you meet investing not only in you, but also in what the both of you are doing. Someone is not going to feel a lot of passion if they haven't really invested anything, but when they've made an effort, they've contributed, they will feel more motivated to make it work and to make sure it's fun and it's enjoyable.
Cool.
I think a really just easy term for guys just getting started is to think about help. How can she help out? If you're on a date, how can she help out? If you're talking to her, how can she help? Just in little ways, Can she scoot her chair closer so you can hear her? Can she hold something for you? Can she remind you when something happens? Like say, hey, when this bartender comes back, get my attention. Any little thing where she can help you is great. And that's just the opposite of what most guys do. But it's so attractive, and it really just goes right under the radar because she's not expecting a guy who's sexually interested in her to do that.
A lot of guys hate loud nightclubs because they have difficulty talking, but there's also a huge advantage to a loud nightclub, and that is you can wave her over and have her get closer to you in order to hear what she's saying. And that's something that a lot of people don't take advantage of. You want to use the loudness as an excuse for you guys to sit closer together or have her go off the dance floor where it's quieter to talk. Part 3 is vision compliance. The first pillar of success for DSP was vision. And we talked about the importance of having a vision, the importance of communicating that vision to her, how to get her contributing to that. And vision compliance is all about using compliance to get her cooperating with you as a teammate in your vision. So early on, and You could do this in the first meeting with the girl or even a first date. If you can get on the topic of your vision, it's very easy to get her to do things with you for that. So for example, if, say you play guitar, one thing that you could do is get a girl to come with you and check out guitars at like a guitar store. Another easy thing would be to have her pick up a guitar magazine while she's at the store, right? It's a couple bucks. It's very easy. I had a girlfriend that would actually do networking with other musicians for me. So for example, if she was out at a restaurant, she was actually a waitress, so she was at the restaurant. If someone at the table was talking about music, she would sometimes talk to them and say, hey, my boyfriend is a musician too. Let me get your card so you guys can play together. And anything like that, no matter how simple, if you can get her invested in your vision, that's like the most powerful.
And I think one of the really powerful techniques you can do is role playing. And one reason why that works is because it gives her an idea that you and she have a future. We're going to get specifically into like role playing a little later, but you can actually do it on a very literal, real level. When you're talking about your vision, you can say, and you can use the us frame to bring up how, you and she can do something together. So let's say you've only known this girl for 5 minutes, but you get to talking about, you want to buy your own private plane, like a small plane, and you want to fly around. You can paint a picture for of you and she doing this together and like succeeding or having a great time together. So you can say, you don't even need to really have it yet. You can say, I'm taking flying lessons and I'm going to get this plane, and it's the reason why I want it is because of this and this and this. And, I'll take you flying, and you and I, we can fly around, and, you can take pictures out of the side while I watch the controls, and, we can just have a great time in this airplane flying over, whatever place, the mountains or whatever.
Yep.